Hi there, it's Claire Thomas. Welcome to today's class. If you have got your yoga mat, great. I have a cushion right here. So if you want to grab a block, a pillow, a bolster, something to elevate your hips, that is an option that you have. Yoga block if you've got one, maybe a towel, some water. So take a few moments, grab what you need. And then we'll start to get settled in our first asana or shape, which will be this easy seated pose. So again, maybe your hips are up, elevated off the ground, or you're seated right on the ground or your mat. Ankles are gently crossed. You'll start to sit up nice and tall. Relax your shoulders down. Relax your jaw and your face. If you want, you can gently close your eyes. These first few minutes of our class are essential. We're creating and acknowledging the sacred space that we have on our mat. Just think how amazing it is that we have this opportunity to come onto our mat and practice today. Think of it, it's an honor. And we honor our body. We're going to listen to our body today. If you'd like, you can place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. And then I want you to bring your attention and your focus to your breath. In today's class, we'll be talking about the importance of a pause. So, oftentimes in our day, we are reacting. Something happens and we're not even thinking or choosing our behavior. We're doing what's habit, that knee-jerk reaction. So for me, I think of no matter what mood I'm in, if someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm mad, I'm saying something. What I've learned through my yoga practice is there is another way to move away from that reactivity, to create a space, a pause, where I can then choose how to respond. So today I want you to think about pausing, moments where you can create space in your practice. Because again, it's one of those concepts that will serve you on your yoga mat, but really off your yoga mat. A few more breaths here. On your inhale, feel your chest and your belly pressing into your hands. On your exhale, you might feel them shrink back. If your eyes were closed, you can start to open them. If you were elevated, you can come down onto your mat here in this seated position. And we're going to take a pause here. So one of the functions of a pause in class is to reset. So we always want to be intentional about the shape that we're taking with our body. Now, that doesn't mean that it has to be picture perfect or look a certain way. There's not an expectation. It just means we're paying attention. So one of the things we're paying attention to even when we're seated is that our spine feels nice and long here. but that we're not rigid. There's a balance. So we're going to soften in our shoulders and our fingers. So you can use a pause in between shapes or during holding a pose to check in and notice how it's going. Now we're going to do some movements here to start to open up some space. So if you'd like, staying in the seated position, imagine your bottom really rooting down into the earth, and then we can start to circle. One direction, maybe once or twice, and then the other. Option to hold onto your knees here for a little bit more stability. We want to keep our sits bones really grounded down here so we're not rocking and rolling all over the place. We're generating this movement from the hips, stretching the side body. Again, relax your neck here. Just find the movement that feels good. Check in with your low back. And then inhale and reach your arms up to the sky. And then exhale, we'll take a side bend. Right hand will plant down at your side. Left arm reaches up and over. Gaze can be in front of you with a neutral neck, or you can even look up. And again, we're rooting down. We're not rocking up on one side. We're still grounded into our mat. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, we've got a side bend the other way. And it doesn't matter which side you do first. You just want that balance. Inhale, center. Exhale, side bend. On your next inhale, come back to center here. Exhale, bend the other way. A few more times, right and left with your breath. You can start to utilize what we call an Ujjayi pranayama, a warrior breath here. So on your inhales through your nose, exhale, lips are closed through your nose. You can hear it. There's a slight constriction across the back of your throat as you exhale, so this breath should be audible. You might notice it's starting to warm you up a bit as you're moving right, left. A few more times each side. You're doing great. You might notice you're having a bigger range of motion now. You're feeling a bit warmer. And then once you feel complete, you've evened out your sides, we'll be back at center here and let's come to a little stillness. That breath is still fired up. In yoga philosophy, we talk about these energetic forces that we call the gunas. And so you've got sattva, which is what we call when we're in a balanced state. And then we've got your rajas and your tamas. Now your rajas, if you're someone who's go, 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 that's associated with the energy of movement, that kinetic energy. Tamas is the opposite, potential energy or stillness, lack of movement. And so what we look for in an Ayurveda, we want to find a balance then. So if you're, again, someone who's go, 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 we want to balance that with some stillness, because that is one of our goals, again, is to reach this balance, this sattva state. Inhale, bring your arms out to the side like you're making a T. Maybe your hands are slightly elevated above your shoulders. And then on an exhale, you're going to wrap your arms around your body and give it a squeeze. This is option 1. Option 2 is to take an eagle bind with your arms. I'm going to take my right elbow underneath my left, palms facing each other. And notice here that my elbows and my shoulders, we've got a 90-degree angle here up to my hands. My hands aren't resting on my face. My elbows aren't down by my belly button. And if your shoulders aren't liking this, then you're just giving yourself a squeeze, rounding through your upper back. And then we inhale, open your arms. Exhale, do it again. This time, if you're taking these eagle arms, switch which arm is on top. If you're giving yourself a hug, switch which arm is on top, either way. And then we'll start to move. Inhale to open, maybe you even gaze up. Exhale, bind or a hug. Inhale, opening through that front body. Exhale, stretching our shoulders, rear deltoids there. You can use that Ujjayi breath. One more time each side. Bring both hands to heart center. Find some stillness. You might feel your heart rate has gone up. You're utilizing that victorious breath. That is all good. There are moments in our practice of movement and kinetic energy, and there'll be moments of stillness. We fluctuate through these rajas and tamas state. No one is one of those all of the time. And we even can enter into that state of balance, that sattva state. But usually that's not the norm, and we end up cycling back to one end or the other. I read someone's quote the other day, and they said, I felt so great today. I had everything figured out. My life felt so balanced. It was a great 30 seconds. Acknowledging that we are not often living consistently in that balanced state, but it's more of a cycle, and that's okay. All right, let's come onto our hands and knees here into this tabletop, and we'll move through some cat-cows here. This is just a great way to continue to warm up our spine. A reminder, you can have the tops of your feet on your mat. I keep my toes on my mat here. It feels better in my knees. So try out what works best for you. We're stacking joints here. On an inhale, right, we heard this cue. Your belly drops towards the mat, tailbone up to the sky. Pulling your shoulder blades back and down. Chest shifting towards the front of your mat. And then exhale, we reverse it. Pull your belly button up and in. Drop your tailbone. Really press into your fingers here. Let your head hang down. And then you can start to pair that movement and breath. And again, you can utilize this Ujjayi pranayama. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. Few more. Notice again if your range of motion is getting bigger as you're warming up your body, as you're distributing this fluid into your joints. Then we'll land in tabletop here. And we're going to come into downward facing dog. So lots of ways to get into that, but we want to make this upside down V shape with our body. So one way is to curl your toes from this tabletop. Straighten your legs, send your heels towards your mat. Tailbone reaching up to the sky. And you're really pressing into your fingers here. So there is a slight bend in your elbows, but you're pressing. So your shoulders are away from your ears. Pull that low belly up and in, and then send that energy down through your heels. For some people, this down dog is too short. If you rock into a high plank, you might wiggle your toes back a few inches. Try again. It all depends, some of it is our genetics. The length of some of our bones, right? Our proportions. So again, no right or wrong. Then we'll start to pedal our feet, feeling a great stretch along the back of our legs. Maybe you gently press your chest towards your thighs here. Move around for a few more breaths. Find that movement. Notice the sensations. And then for a few breaths, find some stillness. Two more breaths here. From here, we're going to move into our sun salutation A. So on an inhale, you're going to look up at your hands, and you're going to step your feet to meet your hands. You're going to land in this forward fold, Uttanasana. Now, as you can see, I've got a generous bend in my knees here. Again, tailbone lifting up to the sky here. You'll see when I think about it, I can get a deeper hinge in my hips here. Chest is reaching towards my thighs, but it doesn't have to be there. You don't need to be forcing anything in this. Maybe you reach for opposite elbows here. Find a little sway. If you want, you can also have your block here. If we're really tight, maybe your knees are really bent. You've got a block here, and that's A-okay. Whatever your body needs, let's honor it today. Then on your next breath in, you're going to root down through your feet and come to standing here. Arms reaching up to the sky. Fingertips ignited here. Fingers spread apart, energized. Remember, again, what we talked about when we were in our seated position. We want to feel length through our body, our spine, our neck. But we also want to relax our shoulders down. Pull your belly in here. This extended mountain pose. Even though you're just standing here, you should feel strong. You should feel like if someone came and tried to knock you over, you're grounded enough where you would hold your own here. One more breath in, and let's take a twist. Right arm is going to go towards the back of your mat. Again, fingertips open here, making this T with my arms. Hips still facing the front, twisting through my torso. Gaze can be behind you. Inhale, we reach up. Exhale, opposite side. Inhale, reach up, maybe a mini back bend. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale to a halfway lift. Hands, take a few breaths in this shape here. This is a shape that I often see we're just doing it to get to another shape. But what we're doing here, if you press into the outside of your shins here, you might notice a broadening through your collarbone. You want that flat back, and you want length, tailbone reaching to the back of your mat, crown of your head reaching to the front of your mat. Then keep that length as your hands come to the mat and you step back. So maybe you're in high plank. For these first ones, I'm going to take a modified chaturanga, which is our next move in our Vinyasa movement. So fingers are wide, knees on the ground. You're going to lower about halfway, bending your elbows, which are shaving your ribs. Inhale, press into your hands. You've got this back bend here. Only come up as high as you want to. Maybe forearms come to the ground. And we've got a little baby cobra here. Just want to feel some compression in your low back. And then exhale, we'll press back into that downward facing dog. That's our sun A today. So let's take 3 breaths here in this down dog. And on your next inhale, look at your hands, step your feet up. Halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, root down, rise up. And we've got our twist. So your exhale is to twist you. Inhale, back to center. A little reset or pause here. Twist the opposite way. Back to center. Exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift. And then modified or regular chaturanga, or just meet us in downward facing dog. However you need to get there. 3 breaths when you land in your down dog. Maybe you want to just go, 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 but we're scheduling in the stillness. Next inhale, step it up to the top of your mat, halfway lift. Exhale, empty out and fold. Inhale, we rise up. Exhale, we've got a twist. Back to center. Twist the other way. Center one more time and forward fold. Halfway lift. Chaturanga Dandasana. Maybe you're on your toes this time. Up dog or some type of back bend there. Down dog. 3 breaths here. Next inhale, step it up, halfway lift. Let it out as you fold. Inhale, chair pose, Utkatasana. So it's like you're sitting back in this imaginary chair. Look down and make sure you can see all 10 toes. If not, you're going to pull those knees back. Pull that belly in, tailbone drops. Arms reaching up. Chest should feel open here. So many times I see this. We want this. Feel those quads engaged. One more breath here. Soften your face. Exhale, forward fold. Good job. Take that halfway lift. Let's meet in downward facing dog for part 2 of our Sun B. Inhale your right foot up to the sky. Exhale, we're going to step it between your hands. We're going to come into warrior letter A, or warrior 1. So your back foot will be at about this 45-degree angle. So not facing the long edge of your mat. Scoot your toes up, walk your heel back. Right leg is bent, roughly knee over ankle. Hips, you're trying to square them to the front of your mat, but really, if they're facing towards the front left corner of your mat, you're doing good. Arms can come up here. Pressing down into both feet. Again, really should feel a lot of leg activation here. Another breath in. We're going to come into a twist to the right. So you're going to come on to the back ball mount of that back foot. And arms will come and twist to the right, as we saw in our Sun A. Very good. Feeling it in the legs here. Then we're going to drop that back heel. This time toes facing the long edge of the mat. Right arm sweeps up and over as the left arm glides down that back leg. Reverse warrior. One more breath in here. Exhale your hands down to your mat. We'll meet in downward facing dog. I'm going to take those 3 shapes on the left side. So left foot will rise up. Step forward. Ground down that back heel. We'll come into warrior 1 or warrior letter A. Again, Hips, we're thinking about squaring them to the front of our mat. But realistically, if they're coming up towards the right front corner of your mat, that's good. It's still a closed hip shape as opposed to something like a warrior two where our hips are open to the side of our mat. Next exhale, remember we curl up on that back foot, open up for a twist. We're only holding it for this first time through. You can bring back in that Ujjayi breath. And then ground that back heel. Left arm up and over. Reverse warrior. Sometimes called peaceful warrior. This, you'll notice those hips are open to the long end of your mat. And we'll vinyasa through to down dog. 3 breaths here. That's our sun B for today. Chair pose, and then those 3 shapes right and 3 shapes left. So if you know where you're going, freedom to go there. If you want to follow along with me, that's cool. We're going to try to pair 1 movement and 1 breath. If at any point along the way you want to pause or stay in a shape or you need a reset and would like to drop into child's pose, please do so. On your next inhale, step it up and halfway lift. Exhale and fold. Inhale to chair pose. Pause at the top. Exhale, fold. Halfway lift with the breath in. And then we'll flow through. Remember, you can bring your knees down here. Or you can land right in down dog. Right foot, step it up. We're coming into warrior 1. Inhale. Exhale for that twist. Inhale, reverse your warrior. And then vinyasa. You can make some big arm movements here. It's kind of fun. It's flowy. Left foot steps up. Rise to warrior 1. Exhale for the twist. Inhale, peaceful. And we'll flow through. In down dog, we'll take 3 breaths. All right, one more time. Inhale, travel to the top of your mat and halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, Utkatasana. Sink deep here. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift with the flat back. Exhale, plant your hands, step back. Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, pressing up to upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Right away, right foot's going to step forward, warrior 1. Inhale as you rise up. Exhale, we twist. Remember, come up on your back toes. Really wringing out your back here. And then inhale, we're coming along the other way. Right hand reaches up and over, reverse warrior. Exhale, cartwheel your hands down to your mat and flow through. We've got one more side here. Once you're in down dog, your next inhale, left foot steps forward. Rise to warrior 1. Exhale to your twist. Inhale to reverse your warrior here. Stretch through that side body. And then exhale, hands to the mat. Flow through to downward facing dog. Once you land in downward facing dog, option to come to child's pose. Let's find that stillness. Big toes can come to touch, knees are out wide, maybe as wide as your mat. And your hands will start to walk forward as you soften your chest to your mat here. And this again is a shape that can be taken at any time during any practice. No one has to tell you you can or you can't or when to do it. Rest your forehead on your mat. And if you've noticed that your mouth popped open because you were breathing a little bit deeper, a lot of muscular engagement happening, a lot of ups and downs, which can bring our heart rate up. That's cool. See if you can start to slow down the breathing and send that breath back in through the nose and out through the nose. So we're talking about the importance of the pause today. So when can you pause in your yoga class? Well, right now. Maybe after a moment of high energy, high movement, we can balance that with some stillness. In the beginning of practice, right, when we come in and we start to create our sacred space, great time for a pause. We said maybe between poses or during a pose even, right? Check in with how it's feeling in your body. When we talked about being reactive in the beginning of class, that also can mean we just drop into our default or what our normal behavior is. So if something like a sun salutation you're doing all the time, you're maybe just going through the movement. So if you notice that happening, awareness, pause for a second and check back in. How's my alignment feel today? Is anywhere in my body holding on to tension? Like just questions to ask yourself that brings you back to this moment. Take just a few more breaths here. A nice little restorative moment. Off the mat, why should you pause? Well, it doesn't feel great to feel like you're always just reacting to something. Something happens, oh, I have to react a certain way. You have a choice. You can pause and decide how you want to respond. That is your power. When we take a pause during the day, we can get a new perspective, right? You just interrupt the loop of your thoughts for a second. What's going on? When we take time to pause in our day, that can be a time when we incorporate some of our self-care or just rest in general. Because again, if we're always go, 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 high energy, we're not in balance. Our bodies want that balance of the high energy and the stillness. We need that to be in that balanced sattva state. And again, I mentioned awareness. If we're taking a pause, we can notice more. Because if we're head down, go, 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 we're not noticing everything that maybe we should be in our lives. All right, let's press back up into downward facing dog. And this time our right foot is going to step between our hands and we're going to rise up to a crescent lunge here. So my back foot is lifted, my heel is pointed up at the sky. A lot of times I see this, but let's bend the knee, point the heel up, ooh, quad, core engaged. We're just going to hold this for a few moments. Sometimes in not moving, it can feel difficult. But then that's our personal challenge or an opportunity for growth for us. Can we stick with it? And then you can stay here. If you need to come down onto a knee and take this as a low lunge, please do so. Or maybe you exhale, tap your knee, and inhale, come back up. Did you feel that? You do it again. You can do this. You can do hard things. Now your next breath in, we're going to come into warrior 3. We're going to press into that right foot. Left leg is going to lift behind you. Toes pointing down at the earth. Maybe you're reaching your arms, really just lengthening your whole body here. Option to have your hands at heart center. Option to grab a block. Give yourself another point of contact with the ground. Nice bend in that standing leg. Soften your face. You've got this. One more breath. Gently set the back foot down. Turn your toes out to face the corners of the wide edge of your mat. Coming into this goddess squat here. Sometimes called a Buddha squat. I'm going to place my fingertips at the back of my head here. Just make sure that my chest stays open. You're dropping your so it's not like a sumo squat where your bum's going out. Bum's dropping straight down here. Continue to breathe. You want to start adding in little crunches here. Just a little extra nugget of core. You can do that. Ooh, my legs are talking to me. I don't know about you. My reaction would usually be something's bugging me to just stop. But hey, I'm going to stick with it. All right. Whew. Release your legs here for just a moment. Maybe bend back and forth. Point your toes to face the long edge of your mat. Hands are going to grab behind you for a bind. If that doesn't work, you're like, Claire, my hands are not going to do that. My shoulders don't like that. Got a towel or something, right? Or a headband that fell off your head while you were practicing. I'm going to feel that stretch here. Breath in, and then exhale. We're going to bring our head towards the earth. Let your arms come off away from your body as much as they want to, and you can drop the spine at any time. Three more breaths here. Core engages as you rise up. Flip your feet to the back of your mat. Let's land in this crescent lunge. And again, for me, I always end up relaxing my foot back here. Feels a little less muscular engagement there. I have to remember, like, point my heel at the sky. Continue to breathe. Maybe we can bring back in that Ujjayi breath if we lost it. And again, remember, option to bring your knee down to your mat. And just turn this into a nice stretch in a low lunge. Or we can do our exhale to tap. Inhale to rise up. Slow and steady. Now we're going to come into our warrior three. So on your next breath in, you're going to launch up. I'm going to come out the frame here. So we want our hips square to the ground. So your right pinky toe is going to dial down here. We got hips square to the mat. And again, you can be reaching in front of you. You can bring your hands to heart center. Bring your hands to the floor. 3 more breaths here. What are you going to do with it? Set that back foot down. Hopefully not on a block like I just did. Let's come back over. Just gotta squat one more time. Maybe you bring your hands into a mudra here. Just gonna hold this for 3 more breaths. You got this. Chest open, gaze up. Drop your tailbone. All right, rise up. Nice job. Maybe bring your feet together here. Find a little movement. We're going to come back into downward facing dog here. We're going to set up for half pigeon. So I'm going to bring my right heel to the sky. I'm going to draw my right knee behind my right wrist. So my front shin is not parallel to the top of my mat, but my right knee is behind my right wrist. Left toes are behind my left wrist. Then you want your left leg out long behind you. As I always need to remind myself, once we're here, your right hip is going to pull to the back of the mat. Your left hip, send it energetically down. And once you've got that squared away, you can start to soften your chest towards the floor. You do have the option to take this on your back, bending your right leg, crossing your right ankle above your left knee. Left foot can be stamped on the floor, or maybe you wrap your hands behind your left thigh, gently bringing your left quad closer towards your chest. You're just going to choose the level that works for you. Or you're in this half pigeon, maybe you're using a block as a pillow to bring your mat closer to you. But here we are, yet again, dropping into stillness. For some of us, we crave and really enjoy and seek out these longer held shapes. And for some of us, this is the hard work. One of my great yoga teachers, Lois Cromwell, she took a class recently with her where she was talking about Viktor Frankl, the famous Austrian psychiatrist. And he was a Holocaust survivor. And he had theories of psychiatry about what gives us a drive to live, our will to live. And he talked about that will to live, that drive to live, that comes from finding the meaning of our life. We're driven to figure out what we're here to do. Gently start to press up. If you were in this half pigeon, we're going to come into downward facing dog. So you'll curl your back toes, send your right foot back towards your left. Take just a moment here for coming into the other side. If you were in the seated or prone half pigeon or figure four, just switch sides. And again, left knee behind left wrist, left foot behind right wrist. So your right leg is out long behind you. Sometimes I need to carefully walk my right foot a little more towards the outside edge of my mat. Again, we're all going to be different because of our different anatomy. And then put that attention on your hip. So this time, since our left foot is forward, we're going to draw our left hip back towards the back of the mat and draw your right hip down. No matter how many times I take this shape, whether I'm teaching it or personal practice, I always have to think of that. Find that meaningful spot and drop into that stillness. Check in with how this side feels. Maybe notice how it's different from the other side, not comparing. We're just observing. So Viktor Frankl. One more thing I want to say about him is he has this really powerful quote that I think fits right into what we're talking about in terms of pausing. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So a stimulus, something happens. And if the space is so minuscule, it's not noticeable. We just have our knee-jerk reaction. We're not really utilizing our freedom there to choose how we want to respond. Again, sometimes our responses just become our behavior that we don't even think about. It's habitual. But guess what? Once you notice, you can do something about it. You have a choice. I've been working on this for a couple of years. I will say, I have noticed so many improvements on and off the mat in my life. What I would consider improvements. Just more patience, more responding how I want to respond. But that doesn't mean it's easy. It just means that now we know about it. Now we can notice it. Now we have the power to do something. We can respond instead of just reacting. And it feels good to know that you have that choice and that power. That's yours. Take 2 more breaths on this side. And then you'll start to ease out of it. This time, swing your back leg around to meet your front. We'll take a seated forward fold here. So got a nice bend in my knees. Inhale to reach up. Exhale to soften forward. We're not forcing anything here. Feel a release in your low back. Lengthen through the back of your neck. Maybe you gently tuck in your chin. And we'll sit up, and we're going to make our way onto our backs. You grab the back of your knees and lower down. Stamp those feet on the ground, a little bit wider than hips width apart. Arms can come out to a T, they can come behind your head. We're just going to drop our knees to the right. Coming on the edges of your feet here. So don't try to keep your soles of your feet on your ground. And then inhale, back center, drop them the other way. This time it's okay if your opposite hip rises up off the ground. And if you want to just sway between those 2 sides. Again, maybe just noticing where you feel sensation, how it's different side to side. Then bring the soles of your feet together. Let your knees come out wide here, the Supta Baddha Konasana. Inhale, press the soles of your feet together here. Feel that connection. And then exhale, relax your knees. Feel your hips opening. Option to bring one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Bring your focus, bring your awareness to your breath. there's any other shape that you would like to complete your practice, you can take that now. You could stay in this shape right here, or we can meet in Shavasana. Whether you take it in that reclined butterfly pose or whether you straighten your legs, bring your hands to your side. The choice is yours. You have the power to choose what feels right today. Here we're creating a moment of stillness where it's intentional that we can rest. Sometimes if we don't intentionally do that, our whole day will go by and we didn't rest. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. You can start to move your fingers. Spread them out wide and then relax. Move your toes. Wiggle all 10 toes. Find some gentle rotations in your wrists and your ankles if it feels good. Gently rock your head side to side. And you can bring your arms up above your head. Point your toes at the end of your mat. Full body, good morning stretch. And slowly roll onto your right or your left side. Bringing your knees towards your chest, using your bicep as a little pillow. Take a moment here, placing one hand on your chest, to have some gratitude for yourself for showing up today, for exploring moments of movement and moments of stillness. And you'll gently press the earth away from you and make your way to an easy seated pose. Option to keep your eyes closed here. And bring your hands to heart center. Take in one more moment of stillness. Decide an intention for the rest of your day. Maybe it's to incorporate more pauses. It's so easy these days to be overstimulated and overwhelmed. So let's use the pause. Let's use the stillness. This can be in meditation, in a mindfulness exercise, journaling, just taking a few deep breaths. If something happens, when something happens, take a moment and decide how you want to respond, because you have that choice. You have that power. Bring your thumbs to your third eye, an acknowledgement of the light and love inside of you, your intuition, your inner wisdom. Trust that you know the answers that you are seeking. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today. Be well, yogis.